Thank you for inviting me. I'm honored to be here. I am representing actually 40-plus organizations that support Issue 1, including the Ohio Chamber of Commerce. The one organization that is not supporting Issue 1 is the ACLU. I am part of the Fair Districts campaign. I don't know how many of you encountered people gathering signatures for petitions since last July. You might have. Our coalition, the Fair Districts Coalition, wanted to put on the November ballot an issue that mirrored the one that we passed in 2015. I don't know if you remember that. Issue 2 in 2015 ended gerrymandering in the state legislature. A lot of people ask us, well, doesn't that mean that we've already passed redistricting? We actually have not for the Congress. The congressional districts are still gerrymandered. Neither of them will take effect until 2020, although we passed Issue 2, which ended legislative gerrymandering in Ohio. That won't take effect until after the 2020 census. So it isn't until 2021 that we will be able to do that kind of redistricting that passed so overwhelmingly in 2015 at the state level. And the same will be true if we pass Issue 1 on May 8th. It will happen in 2021 at the congressional level. Again, what we hope is not to have, well, we know if this passes, there's been a lot of talk about the 9th district here. That kind of district will never occur again if Issue 1 passes. That is the kind of district that is emblematic of what's wrong with redistricting when it is done with a computer in a back room by a single party. It is especially hard if you're a minority party to get any kind of traction in any district. Because with gerrymandering, I sent out a little flyer there. You can have the computer write things in such a way that the average incumbent passes by a 36% margin, which is astounding, especially in a state like Ohio, which is more or less divided evenly between the two major parties. So that is the kind of thing that will not happen if Issue 1 passes. You won't have a District 9. What we're calling for is compactness, competitiveness, contiguity. You can't use a bridge to create contiguity. If you have, as you know, you can only have a certain number of people in a district. So in large cities, necessarily you have to have more than one district simply because cities are bigger than the size of a district. But they cannot do what they have done to Akron, which is to divide Akron into 4 different districts. That means that Akron itself, if you live there, has no real representation because no particular congressman feels beholden to the citizens of Akron. Essentially, voters in gerrymandered districts are not put first by their representatives, they're last. They pay attention to the money in politics, to their donors, to special interests, but they don't pay attention to us, the voters. So I hope all of you will consider voting yes for Issue 1. There are many of us who have worked on this. You may not know, we collected more than 200,000 signatures to put our own Fair District thing on the ballot in November. It was only when the legislature saw that we had over 200,000 signatures that they decided that maybe they should look at gerrymandering as well. And they negotiated with, to put something that we believe is a wonderful first step toward ending gerrymandering. I'll stop now. I'm sure you have questions, and I'll try answering them. Thank you.
In the amendments that would be added to the Ohio laws. What is it exactly that would eliminate the problem you described in there?
District 9.
What would eliminate it are those four things I mentioned, the compactness, the competitiveness. You have to keep counties compact as much as possible. You have to have, and this is why something like District 9 can't happen again, because you need to contain at least one whole county. District 9 is made up of bits and pieces of, I don't know how many counties. Thank you.
That's what I was wanting to hear, the one whole county.
That's right.
That's what I wanted.
That's right. That's what compactness is all about. Also, you won't have these sort of octopus-like hands going out and just taking like one block out of a city and attaching it to who knows what over there. The idea is to keep people together so that we can talk this way to each other. You know, that you don't have to drive 300 miles to talk to the people that are in your district. They'll be where you are, and you can have those conversations that are so necessary. Should I take that gentleman first?
Yes. Mary, you mentioned that one of the requirements is the compactness by requiring a full county to be part of the district. Can you describe the process?
There are actually 4 steps. It was impossible to leave the legislature entirely out of this because if we had gone the petition route, as you know, it would have probably brought the opposition of both major parties against us. And they have millions of dollars. And while we have 40+ organizations, what we don't have is millions of dollars. We have thousands of volunteers. I don't know if you know that all those signatures were gathered by volunteers. We did not have a single paid signature collector to get those 200,000+ signatures. It was done by volunteers. But when you're running a campaign, you can't depend just on volunteers. You end up fighting against millions of dollars that end up trashing you on television. And we've done this before. So what we decided to do was when SJR 5 came out of the legislature, which was going to be the counter to our Fair Districts proposal, we decided we would work with them to come up with something that we could live with. So up until this point, I don't know if you're aware, there are no rules in Ohio for doing redistricting. They can go into a vault and come out and say, these are your districts, which is what they did. Now there is transparency. They have to have public hearings. They have to show us what the maps look like and why they look that way. And there are 4 steps. The first step, if I may read this, let me see. You have to pass the map with at least a 60% vote from both the House and the Senate. And there's a 1-month deadline. They have to do it within a month. And they have to have 50% minority support. If that one doesn't pass, then the redistricting commission that was passed in 2015 to do the state legislature, they go into effect, and they are empowered to draw the map. Again, this has to be approved by at least 2 minority members, and they only have a month to do it. They can't drag this out. If they don't pass that, then they can pass a simple 4-year map, but then in 4 years they have to go back and do it all over again. And trust me, no politician wants to do that. So there's a lot of, carrots involved in doing the first 2 steps. And if they don't reach it then they have to start all over again. But in each case, there are going to be public hearings. There has to be transparency. They have to show us the maps. And they have to have rationales. They cannot, at the very end, you cannot, only the largest 6 counties can be split. And they can be split only because, as I said, a district has only so many people in it. And if you've got an entire city within a county, you will have to split that county. I don't know if that answers your question, but
And actually, I have a follow-up. I think we're all on the same page here. And also, if you don't mind just vamping for a while until Mary Taylor comes. If you know what I mean.
Or others. Or we
that's a
could,
new experience for me. So I'll try.
we could take questions for others.
That's what I mean,
Yeah, we got a little room
Because
here.
I do have a question here, though. It's on the same thing. Because compactness, I think, is an important part of getting rid of gerrymandering. So the question is, and I think the concern I had was I wasn't sure if there was teeth in the compactness part of it, or because I don't want to rely respectfully on the virtues of the elected people. You know what I mean? So is there teeth? I mean, do they have to be compact?
Yes, they have to be compact. It's written into the issue itself, the ballot
They
language.
can't bipartisanly decide.
Yeah. The Constitution already says it has to be compact.
Well, yeah,
They have
Mr.
not
Knight,
been paying attention, but now they will have to. Yes. Yes. Compactness is one of the things that this coalition has been very concerned about.
I just have a statement, but a follow-up question to that. A friend of mine who was actually in the legislature when they were doing this last time, they actually brought him into the room and said, draw your district the way you want it. That's how, and this is the Republicans, this is how the Republicans did it. Now, but my follow-up is to his thing about the teeth, because so much of the time, our elected officials aren't following the law anyways. So, I mean, I understand you're saying it's in the legislation, but what is like the penalty? How do we hold their feet to the fire? What happens when they don't do this?
Well, here's the difference.
How do we hold them accountable?
If these are both compact and competitive, as they're supposed to be, then you can vote them out because they won't be winning by 36-point margins.
Right.
You know, it really takes not much of a swing in a competitive district to decide that, you know, my Representative X isn't doing the job I want and I'm going to vote for Representative Y. But if you're in a district where someone has won by such a large margin that it would take, you know, a tsunami to really go to the other side, then that person isn't accountable to you. Anybody who wins by 36 points knows that they've got a seat for life until they decide to quit.
I don't mean to dominate the time, but what I'm saying, making the legislators do this to begin with, not the election process. I get that. See, when I was down in the House, one of the things I quickly learned is that there's a lot of Republicans in safe districts. They're not worried about the general election. They're only worried about being primaried by another Republican.
That's
if
right.
they don't vote the way the party wants them to vote.
This will get rid of that. I mean,
Right, I understand that, yeah.
what I would urge you to do is go to www.ballotpedia, BALLOTPEDIA.org. It's a completely nonpartisan, informative website that describes everything that's happening in every state. Look up the issue 1 for Ohio, and they will give you all the language. I'd have to take up Mary Taylor's time. I'm not sure that would be the thing to do.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I do have a question unrelated to this, but if there are questions that people had that, oh, we do have our other, okay, then I'm good.
Then you're good, okay.
Till after, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Mary, and yeah, issue 1 is very important, you know, it is backed by both the official Democrat and Republican